what happens to your body when you stop eating sugar for 14 days. Most people who try to quit sugar fail on day 3 to 4, because right here is the moment where your brain's reward system is at its lowest point. Exactly right before things will start getting better, people tend to quit. And I'm going to show you how to avoid that. But I think it's important to know one of the bad things about sugar is it combines with proteins in your body. It's called glycation. So it causes the proteins in your bloodstream and also in your arteries to become damaged. And then you have what it does to the nerve endings in the bottom of your feet called peripheral neuropathy. But at the deeper level, you develop something called insulin resistance, where the cells can no longer get insulin like they should, which means they can't get access to glucose, certain fuel for the cells. So the cells start to die from a lack of fuel, especially in the brain. That's really what's behind dementia. So, day 1, you stop eating sugar. And I'm also talking about hidden sugar. That is called starch. So like corn flour, maltodextrin, modified food starch, that makes up a lot of the carbohydrates in junk food. That's also sugar, because starch is a bunch of glucose molecules connected together, and when you eat it, they break down and they turn into glucose. On day 1, you eliminate refined sugars and starches, and really at this point, nothing's really happening because you just started. You're going to probably feel things more on day 2, but the stored sugar in your liver starts to be used as fuel. And because this glycogen, which is stored sugar, also holds a lot of water, you're going to start noticing a lot of water weight loss. And so you're going to be peeing more, and you're going to be noticing on the scale, wow, I'm losing a lot of weight. And this is going to happen over the next week or so. A lot of people will lose between 7 and 11 pounds the first week, but that's just water weight. Now, on day 2, is when the cravings kick in because your body hasn't adapted yet. Certain things in your body have to go from sugar burning to burning fat fuel, okay? So that's what's happening when you cut out sugar. The insulin drops, and now the body has to get fuel from somewhere, so it's gonna go after your stored fat, but it takes a few days for your enzymes to convert over and the machinery to go from burning sugar to fat. And the cravings might hit you pretty hard. What you have to realize is those cravings are going to go away very, very soon. So you just need to hang in there, bite the bullet, and just give it a little more time. Now, on day 3, your body is going to be demanding more dopamine, but the problem is dopamine receptors are downgraded, which means they're dysfunctional. And dopamine is involved in addictions, especially to sugar and drugs and other things. Dopamine is that thing that kind of pushes you towards sugar or whatever you're addicted to. This is the exact same thing as someone trying to give up smoking. The dopamine receptors are being influenced by this nicotine. It's exact same pathways, and it's called a reward system. And the reward is basically some pleasure sensation or the sensation of relief once you do what your body is telling you you need to do. Now, just so you know, with a lot of addictions, especially drugs, this thing is so strong, the person eventually does not get pleasure from giving into a drug or alcohol or even sugar anymore. What this is about is getting relief from the pressure or the stress that builds up. So in other words, it starts out with pleasure, but then it ends up just getting a little relief from all the pressure. Because if you don't give in to what your body is telling you to do, it will jack up cortisol and it'll create pressure inside your body through adrenaline and cortisol. It actually will make your body very uncomfortable until you give into it. And it sounds kind of weird, but it's a survival mechanism out of control. So between day 3 and 4 is when most people quit. Why? Because brain fog, being irritable, headaches, tired, anxiety, pressure, agitation, all of that comes from cortisol because of this dopamine situation right here. You are not giving into it, so the body's going to try to get you to give into it. And this is why most people quit. And it all has to do with dopamine receptors not being regulated in the brain properly. If your environment is off, everything else struggles. It's like a fish tank. Pollute the water and the fish get sick. You could feed them the best food, you can treat every single symptom, but if the water stays toxic, nothing recovers. The body runs on 10 signals like insulin, cortisol, inflammation, sleep quality, gut function. Every one of them affects how you feel. But there is always one signal that is more broken than the rest. And until you fix that one, everything else stays stuck. I built a free 2-minute quiz that finds it for you. It tells you which one of the main signals is holding your body back right now. Click the link in the description, take the quiz, and stop guessing. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because I don't want you to quit right here. If you just hang in there, on day 5, things are going to get better and better and easier to cope with. Just predict that this is going to happen, push through it, stay busy, and cross the bridge over to here where it's going to start to become easier, because now between day 5 and day 6 and day 7 is where your dopamine is going to start to upregulate and the receptors are going to reset. So things are going to get easier. You're going to feel less inflammation. You're going to see weight loss. Your mood's going to come up, and your cognitive function, you're going to be more focused. Your memory is going to be better. You'll have more attention. What will really make this a lot better is if you take B vitamins and potassium and magnesium. Okay, that'll get you through this much better. Now, in your brain, there's something called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This is basically miracle grow for the brain. It's going to help regenerate brain cells that have been damaged from having high levels of sugar over a period of time. I don't know if you realize this, but what you're doing when you're coming off sugar and hidden sugar is you're repairing brain damage. You're getting your brain to rejuvenate. Your brain's going to be happy because it's running on something called ketones. You've already adapted to ketones. You're no longer relying on sugar because ketones are an alternative fuel to help feed the neurons, even if they're damaged. So a lot of people ask me, what supplements do I recommend? Now, of course, I'm not biased of my own high quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and type Dr. Berg supplements, you'll find more information. When we get into day 10, 11, and 12, and even 13, just more of all of these things, okay? More weight loss, more cognitive function, less inflammation, and definitely no more cravings. You will not crave sugar at this point. Why? Because you're getting fuel. Your body is tapping into your fat that probably you haven't tapped into your fat for a long period of time. And so your body is now finally getting the fuel that it needs, and your hunger and cravings are going to be gone. And so by day 14, you're going to have normal dopamine receptors. So your food's going to taste better. And if you did eat sugar, it's going to be like incredibly sweet, way sweeter than it normally is. Physically, you don't have that impulse to eat sugar anymore, but there's certain habits that have been ingrained, usually social habits from parties, family events, things that you're used to that you might fall into. And I want to just bring that up now so you can avoid them. You know, even if you feel better, you're like, wow, I could probably get away with eating something. So maybe you won't eat sugar, but maybe you'll have a diet soda because it's sugar-free. In fact, in the Journal of Neurology, there was a study done. In 2025, 12,772 adults followed for 8 years. These people were consuming artificial sweeteners, and they showed a 62% faster cognitive decline. That's 1.6 years of accelerated brain aging compared to the people that avoided them. So you really need to get away from sweet and go more into savory. And I know some people bring this up. When can I go back to a normal diet? Okay, well, just so you know, all that sugar is not a normal diet for humans. And if you go back, you're going to end up in the same boat. How are you now going to maintain this, given the fact that when people go through stress, fatigue, hunger, they tend to give into the habits of the past? So the best thing you can do is start to change your environment. What am I talking about, changing your environment? I'm talking about purging the junk food from your kitchen. Okay, I'm talking about the refrigerator and the pantry. Throw it away. But once that's done and you replace it with the healthier foods, then you no longer have to rely on willpower or discipline. If you are stressed, tired, or hungry, there's just no junk food in the house. So it's going to make it a lot easier. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a download below on how to read a label. It's very simple, and it'll tell you what's good and bad. Because sometimes when it says 0 sugar, it's loaded with starches, and you want that out of your fridge or your pantry. What we're trying to do is we're trying to stack the odds to let you win without the barriers. I did this with a family, and oh my gosh, we went to the grocery store, got the right foods. What a transformation in their health. I followed up a month later, and it was just like an amazing transformation. Also, when you're starting out, it's very important to take the foods that you really crave, like whether it's pizza or ice cream or cookies or candy, and also create a keto version of that, because when you deprive people, sometimes it really affects them. Instead of depriving them, you replace it with something that's almost similar. And I will put a link down below of an entire channel of these foods that I created with my wife on every possible thing that you could crave and a better, healthier version of that. You should make that, especially if you have kids or teenagers in the house, you need to have that as well. The next absolute most important thing to focus on is something called intermittent fasting, but you need to know the details of how to do it in this video right here. Check it out right now.